Good morning, and welcome to Vigilant Broadcasting. The station opportunity presents Underneath the Hat with your host, author Sherri Simmons, as she discusses topics to help us all take care of ourselves underneath the hat.
Good morning, and welcome to Underneath the Hat, an affiliate of Vigilant Broadcasting and the Talk Radio and TV Networks, LLP. My name is Sherri Simmons, and our topic for today is going to be one that we all deal with, we all have struggles with at some point in time, and that's called finances. We have our guest, Dominique Tyler, that will be joining us shortly, and she's going to give us tips on different ways that we can save money, work on improving our finances so that we can become better and do all of the things that we want to do to live our best life, which is our topic from last week. So if you're on Facebook, you can find us live on Talk Radio TV Network, LLP. Or you can call in to discuss. If you have a question for Dominique or myself, you can call in at 319-527-2634. I decided to do this topic because in my book, Underneath the Hat, I talk about Amanda Jane and how she went through the issues with her husband, Campbell, and she was so used to him taking care of all of the financial responsibilities that when she finally did leave and separate from him, everything fell on her. And so she had to use all of the things that she had seen him do to take care of the household, along with other things that she had seen and heard from other people. And, of course, she made some mistakes, but overall she had some things that she had to learn. And so I wanted to make sure that if there were any people out there going through the same issue or transition as Amanda Jane, that they would be prepared to go through it. And even those who may not be in her situation but are having issues with finances or just want to improve on what you're already doing, this show is for you. So our guest today is Dominique Tyler. She was born and raised on the south side of Chicago. She received her BA in Early Childhood Education and Psychology from National Louis University. Dominique has been in the education field for 14 years. Her passion is working with young children and watching them grow and master new skills, creating a sound financial future for her family and helping others do the same. She currently resides in Country Club Hills with her husband and 2 children. So let's welcome our guest this morning, Mrs. Dominique Tyler. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. I know as teachers, Saturday is our only day to get things done for ourselves.
Yeah,
so thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule.
My pleasure.
So let's jump right on in. How important is having a strong financial mindset or plan?
It is very important, especially in the times that we live in. I like how you mentioned just creating that sound financial future, even if you have a husband. Because I know, like with me, before I got married, I had everything in place. But I married someone that was even stronger financially than I was, and I found myself getting a little comfortable. And then I realized, like, okay, wait a minute. If anything happened, of course I want my marriage to last. But if anything happened, I need to make sure that I'm still good. And he still understands that. So I still have my separate savings account. I still have my separate retirement account. And he understands, like, okay, you know, my wife got her stuff together too, if anything was to happen. It's not necessarily even if we separated, if something was to happen to him, he knows that I'll still be able to take care of the household. So I think people have to think about the future and not in the moment. And for a lot of us, we think about, we live in the moment, and we forget that we have to retire, or we want to retire. Like, we don't want to work forever, even if it is something we're passionate about.
Yes, because I hear a lot of people say, and they get a little leery when you talk about the future or wills or what happens if I'm not here. And I'm like you never know especially being an educator, we see young children dying all the time. And so you never know what could happen, when is your day. And you want to make sure that everybody is taken care of and that no one's fighting at the funeral home over your items. So I actually have a will that I set up after my first husband, and people were like, "Why are you talking about this? Why are you doing this?" And I'm like, "You never know what's going to happen. Anything can happen."
Exactly.
So I just wanted to make sure that everything was in order, everybody knew exactly what to do, and then given the people that I call family, I know how things can turn. So I wanted to make sure everything was well taken care of and that I wasn't sitting in someone's freezer for 3 weeks because everybody's trying to figure out what to do next.
Right.
So with that being said, how do we go about creating a financial starter kit? What are some of the things that everyone should have planned and mapped out as far as their starter kit?
Okay, so my biggest thing, and I started this when I was 18, is I always made sure I paid myself first. So before, when I got my check, the money, whatever amount I set aside, it went right into my savings account, so I did not see it. And once I put it into my savings account, I did not touch it. It was money. It was untouched money. I looked at it as money I didn't have. So what I always suggest is start small. What I started with was, I think at the time, $25 a paycheck, which isn't a lot. And if you think about, like, you go out to lunch or you get breakfast every day, whatever that amount is, you can start putting that aside to save. So, and what I always suggest to people, because it is tough making that adjustment, is start really small, like $1 a week. And then once you start to see that money grow and you start to feel confident and feel really good about yourself, then you're like, okay, I could do this. And then you want to start adding more. And I know this, people really, really look at me sideways when I tell them this. Anytime I get an increase, that money goes straight to savings. I do not look at it as extra money in my pocket. But I get a lot of, are you kidding me? I got bills to pay, that kind of thing. And it's like, no, you did fine without it before. What if you didn't get that increase? So pretend like you still don't have it. So that's one of my biggest things. And then just starting to make, start to slowly build that buffer account, which is similar to an emergency fund, just a little bit smaller, because, you know, things always come up. And if you're always don't have that money to fill in those gaps, then you're always falling short. You're always living paycheck to paycheck. So we just want to get, you know, in a better groove of, like, not living paycheck to paycheck.
Okay. Now, what you mentioned about putting yourself first, paying yourself first, that would be considered your buffer account?
I would say it's your buffer. You would start off small, so you would just create a buffer account that may be like just working toward the goal of 600, just having that account of 600. So if your tire blows out one day, then you're able to at least pull from that instead of, you know, having to go into the money that you may have had to pay a bill towards, or just having something. And then once you have that buffer account and it starts to grow, then you can keep growing.
Okay. Now, what about those who have started out saving money and then they saw this nice trip they want to go on and they end up depleting their buffer account because they saw somebody on Instagram who was living their best life falsely, and they decided, I want to go and take this trip too. Now their buffer account is empty. How do they go about getting back to where they were, even though they may have made a financial hiccup?
Yeah. Well, so the biggest thing is, I know we all hear the saying, like, keeping up with the Joneses. If we just try to get out of the mindset of not keeping up with others, then we will be further. But we're human, so we all make mistakes, and we all have that hiccup. The biggest thing is not beating yourself up, and then just starting over at the same time. We can't keep starting over. So if you had this one hiccup, you took your trip, you felt good, life happens. Let's move forward. Let's build up that buffer account again. Let's build up an emergency account. Let's not try to make the same mistakes. You may need to ask somebody else, hey, can you hold my money for me? So you might have to be like, can somebody hold my money for me? Because they might be a little bit more tight with it. Because I know how I am. Like, if you ask me to hold your money, I'm like, remember that goal you set? Let's stick to that goal. I'll be that voice of reason for you.
So you were talking about in order to go back to maybe a hiccup that you made in your finances, just picking back on what it was you had originally done and trying not to live like the Joneses.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And
now,
then just
go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I know that you have some people that are fearful of banks, so they don't like to put their money inside of banks, and you were talking about having someone to hold your money, someone you trust that will keep you from doing it. What are some other ways that people can save without putting it in a bank or having a person that they trust that will ultimately keep their money for them without them having to worry about it?
I know a lot of people are hesitant on banks.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people gravitate towards credit unions, which in my mind, a credit union and banks, they're not a lot different. Although me and my husband, we're actually with a credit union. The only difference I see is we get more interest on our money than with a traditional bank. People are leery of stocks and investing. So I would say the best bet is a bank. They provide the best security for like holding your money, especially if it's a small amount. If it's a large amount, you may be like a little hesitant because you've heard in the news in past years how a bank goes bankrupt and then they don't have your money.
Right.
But at the same time, if you don't feel that you can hold it at home, which isn't crazy safe, because what if you get into your house burns down, then your money's gone.
Yeah.
So I would say the best alternative is a bank. The best option, rather, is a bank.
Now, I've been in this situation because in my book, Underneath the Hat, I started off the show today introducing Amanda Jane and how she went through her issue with her spouse, Campbell, and he was the person in charge of finances. And so now she had to start all over learning how to budget and take care of money by herself. So what do you say to someone who is new to dealing with money and is similar to Amanda Jane where everything burns a hole in her pocket because she wasn't used to having large amounts of money given her the way she was raised and the family that she was in. So all of this was new to her, going into a marriage, making 5 figures, plus her husband's 5 figures, which gave them 6. So now she is now doing things on her own. What do you say to a person who's just starting out and is unsure as to how to go about budgeting and dealing with large amounts of money?
I would say seek help. Because it is a lot. It can definitely be overwhelming. But also when you seek that help, be open to the advice that's given to you. Because a lot of times I've noticed from family and from friends, they want my help, or at least on the surface they want my help. But once I start laying out exactly what they need to do, then that's when they give a lot of pushback. So that's why I say just be open to that help, because the person that's giving you that advice, they mean well and they want the best for you. So just be receptive and go with the flow. It's going to be hard. It's going to be an adjustment. But once you start making those changes, then you'll be able to, feel better about your finances.
Okay. Now, speaking of budget, how do people go about creating one? I've had, even my mom came to me a couple of years ago, and she was noticing how I was able to go on these different trips 3-4 times a year, plus still keep up with all of my finances. And I told her I just created a budget. So how do people go about creating one?
Well, so what I started off with was, it's this, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it's a site called mint.com.
Mm-hmm.
And that's MINT.com. And basically you just plug in all of your expenses, all of your goals, and it will basically tell you how much you need each month to put aside towards that. So if your income is $4,000 a month, your expenses are $3,000, then it's pretty tight. So it may be difficult for you to take that trip, because you also want to save. But if you use, whether you're using Mint.com or another budget applicator, whether you're using an Excel spreadsheet, you'll be able to see like where you're spending, where you're overspending, how much your bills are, how much you want to put aside for these trips you may want to take. But just make sure it's coming out of real cash and not you're using a credit card to fund the trip.
Okay, that's something my husband, my new husband, and I are doing. We do trips instead of it coming out of our account. The money that he brings in for the house, I have him give it to me in cash, and then we put that up for all of our trips. So that way we don't have to worry about it pulling from bills or automatic withdrawals. We know that this is something totally separate. And then after the trip is when he goes back to putting the money for the house back into the account.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so my biggest thing is, as long as you are not funding a trip with money that isn't there, then it's fine. Like, whatever way you do it. Like, for example, when me and my husband pay for our trips, we put it on our credit card, but we literally know at the end of the month we're paying the card off. We're not spreading it out over months, because then that's when you get all that interest, and then you've overpaid for a trip, and then you're penny pinching and you're pulling from other bills, and that's just not what we want to do. We're trying to move forward, and my biggest thing is we're trying to retire. That's what I always try to tell people. We're trying to retire, and we're trying to retire comfortably. So, and then my cousin, he always jokes. My cousin always jokes, Jeremy and Dominique, they're going to be retired, and everybody else going to be working. And it's like, it's a joke. However, we can help you. Like, so let us help you. So,
yeah. Now, what about shared accounts? Now, in my first marriage, we had a joint account, and I promised I would never do that again, because I think it was because of the experience I had with it. I felt like I made more money than he did, and that was like a blow to his ego anyway. And so I sometimes felt as if I was getting an allowance with my own money. And now that I'm in this second marriage, my husband brought up a joint account. I was like, absolutely not. We can come up with a different way of figuring this out. You have your money, I'll have mine, and then we'll come together to pay different bills. But I was absolutely against getting a joint account, mainly because of the experience I had with the first one. So what would you say would be some ways to work with your partner as far as a joint account is concerned?
Okay. I'm a huge fan of joint accounts. However, everybody's relationship is different and experience is different.
Mm-hmm.
We've had an amazing experience with having a joint account. We actually got our joint account before we even moved in together. We weren't married. We weren't.
Okay.
I think I moved in a month after we got our joint account, and we got married 2 years after that.
Okay.
And it's just always worked, and it's worked because we're the same type of person. We know what our goals are. We met based on our interest in finances. So it was never an issue when it came to that. But I do hear couples that say it just doesn't work for them. And then having those separate accounts works. So as far as that, I'm a huge advocate for joint accounts, but I'm also a huge advocate because it's worked for me. So I can't necessarily speak on, like, others' experiences.
Okay. Because I think it will work if we both have our own separate account plus a joint account, and then the joint account is for bills. So money that comes from your account and his account can go into the joint account, which is strictly for bills. But in my first relationship, that was the account.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was coming straight from college into a marriage. I had no idea about finances, nothing about budget. He had all the experience from taking care of his grandparents, so he knew how to do those things. But there were times where I felt like, okay, I'm like getting an allowance and not being able to do the things that I really want to do. So I learned from that mistake of giving all of the control to the person and making sure that everybody felt like they were an equal part financially within the relationship.
Yes, I understand. I absolutely agree with still having those separate accounts, because there's going to be things that you want to purchase, and then you feel like you have to ask, can you do it? You have to be like, hey, I'm doing this, or you got to worry about someone looking at you sideways because you just spent $200 to get your hair done.
Right.
So I think it is important to have that separate account, which when we first started out, we both had our separate accounts. I still have my separate account. He doesn't. He just decided not to have it anymore. He said that's just to, put all the money in our account. And my husband is like, he doesn't spend money, like, at all.
Okay. Yeah.
He's way higher than that. He doesn't spend money. So if he does say, hey, I want to buy something, I'm never like, no, because if he wants to buy something, it may be a random $60 video game a year, and then that's it. But he also knows, like, I have my separate account because I like to keep my hair done often, or I like to go get my nails done. So, and it works for us. And he doesn't look at me sideways like, okay, you still got an account, I should get another account. He's comfortable with that.
Yeah. Mine's the same way. All he wants to do is work. I have to make him go on vacation. And I tell him, okay, we're going here. This is what we need. And he gives it to me and makes sure everything else is taken care of. Yeah, I understand. Well, I thank you so much for these conversations so far, but we're not done, listeners.
Okay.
We're going to take a break, and we come back. We mentioned earlier about your credit. So Dominique is going to give us some tips on how to go about increasing our credit score, which we know is like second to our birth certificate. So when we come back, we're going to get some tips from Dominique Tyler on how to increase our credit score and make sure that we're ready to live our best life. This is Underneath the Hat, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Welcome back to Underneath the Hat with your host, author Sherri Simmons.
Hello, welcome back. This is Underneath the Hat, an affiliate of Vigilant Broadcasting, Talk Radio and TV Network LLP. I'm your host, Sherri Simmons, and our topic today is finances. We're having a great conversation with our guest, Dominique Tyler, who's been sharing with us different things about budget and our buffer account or emergency fund, as some of us know it. We've also talked about shared accounts. And if you're on Facebook, you can tune in now on Talk Radio TV Network LLP. Or if you have a question or want to discuss something, you can call us at 319-527-2634. So, Dominique, when we left, we mentioned that we would dive right into our credit score. So can you explain to those out there listening exactly what is a credit score and how important is it to our lives?
Okay, so a credit score is basically your credit worthiness. So if a creditor pulls up your information, it lets them know whether you're liable to pay your credit back if they loan you something or if you're liable not to. So it is important to have a good credit score because there's times where we all need credit. You want a car, you may not have $50,000 to put towards your car. So that's when a lender comes in. You obviously want the best interest rate possible on that loan. The higher your credit score, obviously, better your interest rate will be. Same thing goes for a house. My husband and I was blessed to get a really, really good interest rate on a really lovely house that was below market value because of my credit score. So you always want to work towards having the best credit score possible so that you could get those things, those larger items that you may want. Even if you want to start a business, a creditor or loan officer is looking at whether you can pay that money back if anything was to happen.
Okay. Now, I know some people see the numbers, the 3-digit number, and aren't sure as to what it exactly means. So what would be considered a good score to have in order to reap the benefits of a good interest rate?
Between anything above 700 is considered good.
Okay.
Obviously, it is so hard to get to that 900, but of course, if you have that 900 credit score, it's no questions asked. You're going to get the best interest rate.
Okay. Now, how do we get, what if we have, and I know a lot of the stories we hear, kids whose parents use their name and mess up their credit, so when they finally do get to an age where they can buy their own things, their credit is shot. How do they go about rebuilding that once it has already been ruined for them before they even began?
So I can attest to that. My mother screwed up my credit. So when it was time for me to go out and be an adult, and it was hard. So I literally hustled for years, and it probably was some tears shed, but I knew what I wanted.
Yeah.
So what I did was I opened a credit card with Capital One because they're literally like the only credit card company that will give you a credit card even if your credit is shot.
Okay.
So I always tell people, go to Capital One. They'll give you a credit card. Don't waste the money. Spend a little bit, pay it right off. Keep doing that. After a while, I was able to get more credit cards. I was able to get, they may have been department store credit cards, but I did those. Once I made a purchase, there are some credit companies, or especially with the department store, that will let you pay in that moment. So it looks like it was credit, and then you pay it right off, but it's showing on your credit report that you made a purchase on your account, but you also paid it off one time.
Okay.
I also suggest a secure credit card if, for whatever reason, Capital One decides they're not giving credit cards anymore. A secure credit card is the next best option, but with a secure credit card, that is your actual money. You're putting up it may be $500. So that it's looked at as a credit card, but since it's your money, you're definitely a little more responsible for it. You're a little bit more conscious of like what's being spent, because you're like, okay, I only put $500 on this card. I only have $500 to spend. But the same rule applies as paying it off on time. So I would do either one of those to get you started. Once you get started, you may be able to get more credit cards, and that helps a ton. But you have to make sure that ratio that is aligned. I think I forgot what the number is, but you have to make sure your credit limit isn't over withdrawn.
Okay.
And you're not you have more paid off than what is owed on the card, pretty much.
Okay.
If that
now how do we? I've heard that in order for you to increase your credit score as pertaining to the credit cards, that you should keep at least 30% of your balance on the card. Is that accurate?
I've been hearing that. I've been hearing that a lot in the financial world, and I have never, ever, ever kept a balance on my card, and I have an 840 credit score. So I don't know. I have no idea where that myth came from. I'm thinking it may be the credit card companies pushing that out, because then they're able to get more interest on your money. So I'm honest to God, me and my husband have never kept a balance. We pay every single month, whether it's a $5,000 balance on the account, we pay it right off, and our score just keeps rising. So
the goal to get to keep rising is to pay the balance off, not do the monthly payments, but to pay the balance off within a month.
Yep. So as long as not within a month, so it's basically by the due date. As long as it's paid by the due date, then I think it'll rise. If you want to keep a balance, I personally wouldn't suggest it. It's up to you, because you're accruing that interest, and why are we spending more money than we should have to? So I would suggest paying it off, and then I think your score will definitely rise. I mean, it took a long time for me to get to the 840. I was at between 750 and 780 for a good 5 years, and now I'm finally there. But I think it just takes that consistency of always making sure it's paid off, making sure you pay all your bills on time. That's with the utility, your gas, if you got a car loan, of course, student loans. Student loans, when I hear about student loans, they break my heart. Just hear that people have it. Oh, my God. It breaks my heart, because, I think that's where me and my husband are blessed. Neither one of us have loans, student loans. And it just breaks my heart to hear that people have to, for something that should be, I personally feel, it shouldn't cost that much.
Yes.
And just having to put money that you could be putting towards your savings or your retirement, you're putting towards, student loan debt. So I am understanding of that, how people, have to, work that into their budget. But at the same time, we have the debt. We got to acknowledge it. We got to pay it on time if we want to build that credit.
And I can be honest, I believe in being transparent on this show, and so I can say, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, that a lot of my student loan is so that I could get that big refund check.
Okay.
So a lot of us don't pull out the exact amount that we need. We end up accepting the highest amount that they give us or offer us, so that we can have that refund money, so that we can do those trips and buy those clothes and go to these concerts and do those things that we do, not thinking about the long-term effect that it's going to have And now that I'm older and have to start paying these things back, and it's more than my car note, I'm like, I probably shouldn't have been so happy about that refund all those years, because that's more money that I now have to pay interest on that I really didn't need. So it's basically like we had a credit card in college called a student loan that we're now paying back.
Exactly. Well, here's the thing. If you ever thought about, like, they are preying on children. Children that's fresh out of high school, first time out of their parents' home, don't know much about money and how it works, or not even thinking that in the future I'll have to pay this back. You don't have a job. You can't even, with your school schedule, afford to work. So, of course, it's natural to be like, okay, I want some money in my pocket.
Right.
I want to be able to dress nice. I want to be able to live a little. So you're preyed on. So that's why, like, financial literacy in younger grades is important, because then you end up with student loan debt for the rest of your life.
Definitely why I wanted to do this show, because I didn't realize my first husband was actually my boyfriend in college, and the one big thing he told me was, don't get a credit card, don't get a credit card. And like you said, they prey on children. I was getting credit card offers in the mail all the time. Like, I really thought that I was famous and popular because I kept getting these envelopes in the mail in college. I'm like, well, who is this that knows my name? So I'm glad that I listened to him, that I never got a credit card, not knowing that every time I got a refund check, it was actually a credit card. So I was actually putting all that money up, and then here I am years later paying it off. And now that I know better, I wanted to make sure that other people knew it too before they fall into that trick of, where's the refund check? It doesn't really matter now, when actually it does. So now I'm paying a car note, a mortgage, plus student loans, which is more than my car note. So it's like paying for a car that's not sitting outside.
Right, exactly.
So that's definitely one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, because even though I didn't fall for the trick of getting a credit card as a college student, ultimately it happened through the form of those refund checks. And then you have a lot of people in college who are doing everything on their own. So any extra money that they can get, they see as helpful, not knowing that, like you said, it's harming you in the long run.
Exactly.
Yep. So another myth, I'm going to see if this is a myth or not, is paying off cards. Does that add to your interest rate, or does it bring it down if you have a card that's open but you don't use it often?
Let's see. I have cards I don't use, but it adds to that debt to income ratio. So it looks as if obviously I have all this disposable amount that I could be using. However, it's not being used. A very small amount of it is being used. So I think it's best to keep them open. What you don't want to do, you never ever want to do, is cancel the card. Just don't use it. You can easily cut it up, which a lot of people suggest. And so you're still getting that. So it looks like if you have a few cards and your total loan amount is $10,000, but you only use $2,000 a month, then that is more appealing to creditors versus you cut up a card and now your credit loan amount is maybe $7,500, but you're still spending $2,000. That ratio is thrown off.
Oh, okay. Because I have a card that I just paid off, and so from what I've heard other people say, I'm like, okay, well, should I at least go in there and buy something like every other month to make sure that I'm trying to constantly build up my credit, or should I just leave it alone?
If you have other credit cards that you're using, it's not necessary to use that card, especially if it's a card that you've worked really hard to pay off, I would suggest cutting it up. The credit amount is still, creditors still see that credit amount on your credit score or your credit report. Cut it up. You don't have to really ever think about it. And then you can use your other credit cards to pay for things or whatever the case may be.
So how many credit cards would you suggest someone have? Because I know some people that only have one, and then I know some people who have a lot of them. So what would you say would be the ideal number of cards that a person should have?
I think I have 2 or 3, but I only use one.
Okay.
So I have literally one primary credit card that I use. The others, they stay in my wallet. Some I've cut up, but I have, for some reason, me and my husband are terrible with keeping up with credit cards. So if push comes to shove and I'm out shopping and I don't have my primary card, I will make a purchase on that second card. But I don't get into a habit of using that second one, only because you may forget you placed a purchase on it, and then if it's not your primary card, you might forget to make that payment, and then you're obviously your credit score will go down because you've missed a payment. So I keep 2 or 3, but we literally use just one card. And we have with us, me and my husband, we have joint credit cards. We have we have 2 joint credit cards. And the reason we did that was to build his credit score.
Okay. So that was my next question. How did you go about building your credit score for someone who may not have any? Is it true that you don't have any credit? Because I've heard that a lot.
I think so. Like, if no credit is just as bad as having bad credit in a creditor's eyes. There was a time where I had no credit, and that was difficult to get anybody to even look at me, because it was like, you haven't even established yourself. You're looked at as just as bad as someone that has racked up a ton of money and has never paid anything, or they're barely paying. So that's why I mentioned the secure credit card will absolutely get you started on building your credit. If you have no credit, if you've never had a credit card, if you've never established anything, bought a house, bought a car, anything, then that secure credit card will get you on the right path to start building your credit. And then you'll see everybody wants you after that.
And that includes even the card. Would the debit cards that we get through our bank be considered the same as a credit card that works towards our credit score?
No, they're completely different. If to build your credit score, you will need some kind of where you're borrowing money from someone else.
Okay.
With a debit card, that's literally your money, and it is not reported to any of the credit bureaus.
Now, you mentioned the credit bureaus. Where is the best place that we can go to check our credit so that we don't get dinged every time we check it? Because I've seen the commercial where the man almost knocks his wife down trying to stop her from checking her credit score. Because we hear that if you check it too much, then you lose points. So is that a myth? And if not, where's the best place to check?
Okay, so annualcreditreport.com, you can check that 3 times a year, but with that, you're literally checking each credit bureau. So there's 3 credit bureaus. So if the first quarter of the year you decide to check Experian, then you can actually check all 3 at once, but then for the rest of the year you can't check anything. So what I usually do is I break it up into every 4 months I check it. So the first by April I may decide to check Experian, and then the next 4 months I may check Equifax, and then at the end of the year, which is December, I'll check TransUnion. There's no order; you can just check.
Okay.
And then you can do that every single year.
Okay.
If you decide to check more than that, you're going to pay for it.
Ooh.
And you're also, if you want to check your credit score, that's an additional fee for you to pay.
Ooh. Okay. Oh, I didn't know that. Because I use Credit Karma.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's another one.
Okay. Because they send me emails saying, oh, your credit score went up. So now that I understand the importance of a credit score, I'm like, oh, God, okay, good. Mm-hmm. So I go to see how much it went up. So that's how I've been keeping track of when to check based on the emails that they send. And being an adult and getting a credit score is like having a birthday. I didn't realize that's what your credit score was until you start purchasing things. I want to purchase things, and they're like, nah, you can't get that. I'm like, oh, what do I have to do? So when they tell me my credit score is improved, I'm like excited. I tell my husband, oh, my God, my credit score went up. He was like, oh, okay. So now that I think this is the adult part, this is the great part of being an adult when your credit score goes up, because to be told what you can't do and then find out that your hard work, now you can, it's like, okay, this is good. So you say Credit Karma is a good one.
Yep, it's good. And then what I've noticed is lately a lot of credit card companies give you your credit score now. I don't know if you've noticed that. So with my Discover card, every single month when I check either online or my statement, it'll have my credit on it. And so that's nice too, because then you don't have to go searching or always checking. I think that's a added bonus. I think I also get I bank with Citibank, and I also get my score there as well.
Okay.
And then the thing is, credit scores fluctuate, and each credit bureau reports something different.
Okay.
So that's where the excitement comes in and the discouragement comes in, because it's like, oh, one person is reporting 840, but the other one is reporting 798. Like, what?
Right.
So it's just
now, I think that if they all report have the same information or should have all the same information.
Yep, I think their scoring is just their scales are a little different. From what I've learned, like one company, their scale may be all the way to 900, where the other one might be to 850. So the score, like when it comes down to like the ratio or the percentage, is the same, but that number might be different. And then the biggest thing with that, however, is one company, if you go to a dealership, they might pull from TransUnion, but you're like, but my Equifax score is 840. Can you please pull that one? But that's the company they decided to go with, so you have to accept that. That's right.
Oh, yeah, because I was going to ask, can you choose which one they pull, or is it strictly up to the company? Okay.
It's specifically up to the company, yep.
Okay. Well, this has been very enlightening for me, and I've tried to ask questions that I've heard people have issues about or concerns. So I hope that those that are listening receive some great information from Dominique about finances, so that we can start working and continue working on building our credit scores, so that we can ultimately be prepared for retirement and make sure we live comfortably. So before you go, Dominique, I have one last question. What is one thing you would tell your younger self now about finance?
Okay, so this may be what I would tell my younger self is to live a little. Only because since I was 18, I was really, really tight with money. If a friend asked to go out, I would say no, because I had this goal in mind. And now here I am at 33 with a husband and 2 kids, and I'm like, I want to go out. I want to get out. And so that's the biggest, my biggest regret. I was extremely tight with my money. Every penny that I could put into savings, and now I'm like, okay, I can't do as much. I don't have that freedom anymore.
Okay.
So just creating that balance for myself. I would have told myself it's okay to create a balance.
Yeah. It's definitely all about balance, because you have some that go out too much and don't have anything saved. And I would much rather be like you, to have money saved, and if I want to do something, then I can, versus always saying yes and then not having it in the long run. So I want to thank you so much for taking time away from your family and enjoying your weekend to come and speak to us about finance. I know that I've been helped, and I'm sure someone out there can take some of the tips that you've given us in order to help them to become more financially stable. So thank you so much for calling in.
I appreciate it.
And I will definitely keep in touch with you.
Thank you.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You do the same.
All right. All right. That was our guest, Dominique Tyler, who gave us so much information about finance, and I'm definitely going to make sure that I share that on my page underneath the hat on Facebook so that you can get these tips. I'm also going to share the link for the episode today so you can tune in and hear everything from her yourself. I want to wrap up today's show with my upcoming event. I am so excited about next Saturday. In 7 days, I will be having my mentoring program luncheon, Young Ladies at All Times, Sundresses and Hats luncheon. We are inviting people from ages 5 to age 105. All women, all ladies, all young ladies, both young and seasoned, to come on out and help us celebrate the close of my spring cohort for Young Ladies at All Times. Tickets are $25. We will have food by Signature Taste by Jillian, decor by Queen's Creations, and music by DJ Soulcat. We'll also have entertainment by the Anointed Dancers of Union, and we will have speakers. We'll have an MC, Miss Katie Evans. We'll be giving out awards to the girls. I was blessed to be able to work with 16 girls from 4th to 7th grade at 2 schools, Wentworth Elementary School in Inglewood and Nicholson STEM Academy in Inglewood, from March to June. And I am so excited about the things that they have been able to accomplish and where they are going in the future. Through my program, Young Ladies at All Times, they have been able to learn how to carry themselves as young ladies. Every week we meet, Mondays for Wentworth, Tuesdays for Nicholson. And at the beginning of each meeting, we say, you are important. Love yourself first. Always try your best. A smile goes a long way. Touch the lives of someone every day. We recite that to each other before we begin and before we leave. I wanted these girls to know that there was someone out there who believed in them. The main purpose of my program stems from a quote from Marian Wright Edelman that says, you cannot be what you don't see. So often we have these expectations of these kids nowadays, and they're not able to reach them because all they know is what they see outside their window, or what they see on the corner, or what they see on TV, and we don't expose them to anything other than that, yet we get mad when they don't become more. So I wanted to make sure that these girls saw what it was that they wanted to be. So they've had women come in who look like them, who grew up like them, who had dreams like them, and they came in and sold into these girls. And now these girls want to be scientists and doctors and entrepreneurs and entertainers and cosmetologists and artists because of the women who came in and sold into them. Now they can be something because they've seen it in person. They've touched it. They've gotten their autograph. They've taken a picture with them. So I want to invite all of you out on next Saturday from 12 o'clock to 3 p.m. We're going to have food and music and entertainment. We're going to take pictures together. We're going to dance. We're going to network. These kids are in 4th and 7th grade, and they're going to be a part of a networking part that's all dedicated to them. So the attire are sunglasses and hats or your fascinators, and come on out and celebrate with us as we wish these girls well as they continue on to their next school year. Tickets are $25. If you can't make it, you can always donate. You can go to eventbrite.com. I'll attach the link to this video. All proceeds go to Young Ladies at All Times. You can also check out my book, Underneath the Hat. It's on Amazon.com or wherever books are sold. Check out my YouTube channel, Underneath the Hat web series. Subscribe. There are a few episodes of different web series that we take based on some of the same topics that I've dealt with on this radio show. My social media outlets on Facebook and Instagram at Underneath the Hat, at Young Ladies at All Times. You can also find everything on my website, SherriSimmons.com. Next week, I will be live from Young Ladies at All Time Luncheon. So we'll get to talk to the vendors and some of the girls that are there as I prepare to celebrate these young ladies. This is Underneath the Hat, an affiliate of Vigilant Broadcasting and the Talk Radio and TV Network, LLP. I am your host, Sherri Simmons, and remember to take care of yourself underneath the hat. See you next week.
Thank you for tuning in to Underneath the Hats radio show. We will see you here again next Saturday at 10 o'clock a.m. Central Time. Follow Sherri on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Underneath the Hat, and visit her website, SherriSimmons.com. Always remember to take care of yourself underneath the hat. See you next week.